perfect time to enter the market. If you talk to analysts about this who track the numbers, the most aggressive numbers that they come up with is that 10% of the servers that will be virtualized have been virtualized. It means 90% of the market is wide open. And with competitors like Microsoft and Sun entering, everybody's going to have to do a bake-off and look at what are my choices now, where before it might have been an automatic decision. Now everybody's got a choice to make, and I think that's a big deal for our customers. I haven't met a customer in the global 2000 size corporation that is standardized on one operating system. They don't exist. They all have multiple OSs. They use them for different things. I expect a few years from now, most of those customers will have multiple hypervisors that they use for different things. I think it's going to be a heterogeneous world. It's going to continue to be that way. With what we've announced today, we have as broad an offering as anybody else in the industry. When you look at the fact that we have virtual hypervisors for local desktops, we have the virtual desktop infrastructure, we have the server-side hypervisor, we have the global scale management tools. We have things that other competitors don't have, like unified virtual physical management, IT compliance management, and then going over to the desktop side, we have things like the dedicated Sunray clients. So we have not just the software, but actually the hardware on the server side and the desktop. I think we're one of the only people in the industry that can offer you a solution across the whole range of what you need to do. Looking at the difference between some of the other vendors using Xen, I think that with Op Center we have by far the most advanced management capabilities, and with Red Hat acquiring the makers of xVM, I'm not going to try and pronounce that one, but it looks like really interesting technology, but sometimes I just wonder whether it's, copper pipes versus plastic pipes. To most customers, it's just plumbing. And I think it's that management layer, it's how they interact with the hypervisor. Certainly they care about performance, and they care about a lot of these other things, but that way that you interact with it, I think, is going to be the most important thing. The things that differentiates us, sort of immediately from VMware and Microsoft is the open source nature of what we're doing, with both xVM Server and VirtualBox being totally open source. It gives people the ability to come and build communities around that. And we've seen having a community around VirtualBox for the last year or so. We have so much interaction with them, and they like the fact that it's open source, that it's freely available for download. And they come to us, we get 15,000 downloads a day, 6 million plus downloads total. A lot of that because it's open source and available. And we still have various ways of monetizing that. We're offering commercial support subscriptions for it now. We do OEM arrangements for people who bundle it in other products. And we see that carrying over into the server side. So, one of the things we announced today was open sourcing of xVM Server, and we've posted the first blocks of source code up on our new xvmserver.org site. So that's a key thing for us, is the open source nature. The other thing about the portfolio broadly that I think really differentiates us from any of the players is around how we're dealing with management and how we're dealing with what we call managing an internet scale. How do you deal with managing not just a local group of virtualized servers? How do you deal with managing a distributed data center globally? And we architected Op Center to build those kinds of architectures where you can distribute management into different sites and manage them. It's something that we think is really unique to our solution. As well as on the desktop side, when you look at our VDI virtual desktop infrastructure, the protocols that we have are just optimized to work across wide area networks, across the internet, and they're just best of breed for that. We think that's totally unique. We're partnering with Microsoft in a lot of ways, and we're putting xVM Server through the SVVP server virtualization validation program. We're partnering with them around interoperation, but when it comes to how we're selling these things and how Microsoft's pricing these things, it's actually a bit opaque. And certainly there is no freely available version of Hyper-V as far as I can tell. What there are is Hyper-V is included in Windows, and if you want to run Hyper-V in the data center, you're going to be buying data center class Windows, which is not an inexpensive product. So I'm not sure that they really have a free offering. They have an offering that's bundled with Windows, which I think is different than saying I have an open source offering, go download it, no license restrictions, and have access to the source code. It's very different. Oracle's taking a very different strategy than almost any of the other competitors, I think, in that they are really focused on a vertical stack of their own stuff. They aren't interested in running a lot of other people's applications inside of their stack. They aren't interested in running other people's operating systems for the most part. They're really aimed at how do I run Oracle databases, Oracle applications inside a virtualized environment. Our take at Sun is people want to run lots of things. It's the heterogeneous nature of this that's attracting people to virtualization, and that's what we're interested in. The parts that we've had out in the market the longest are the desktop side, and I talked about all the downloads that we're getting on VirtualBox, which is just huge traction. But in terms of monetizing that, we've just announced commercial subscriptions for enterprise support for that. So companies that want to roll that out in their enterprise and get 24/7 support on it can now buy that from Sun. We also have arrangements with a large number of independent software and hardware vendors that bundle VirtualBox into their solutions, and they license it under OEM licenses from us, where we can give them commercial software licensing terms. We can give them additional bits of software that add additional capabilities, and we have customers paying us millions of dollars to license VirtualBox to embed in their solutions. With VDI, the traction we're seeing is tremendous since we've really established the ability to run Windows and other operating systems on the back end. We're seeing, doubling and tripling the amount of interest in the VDI stack. And what you saw at the launch event was some sample customers and partners like CSC talking about how rapidly they were rolling it out. We're seeing that in financial services, healthcare, a number of different verticals. So on the server side, we're expecting to see as much traction. We're just releasing xVM Server now. We started an early access program for it last month that I just announced on my blog, and we had hundreds of people request to join the early access program. So there's a huge amount of interest. We're leveraging a number of technologies from Solaris inside xVM Server. Some of the really key ones are, some of the Solaris networking technologies really giving us benefits in terms of scalability and the ability to guarantee service levels throughout the network. We've integrated the Solaris fault management architecture. This is really key. Sun isn't new at running servers with 64 or 72 logical CPUs, and as people start to scale up to quad socket, quad core CPUs, they're moving to 32 and 16 and 32 logical CPUs. That's an awful lot of components that can have faults in them, multiple CPU cores, lots of RAM. These smaller 2U and 4U boxes are starting to feel like the old big SMPs, and Solaris is optimized for that environment. It knows how to survive transient hardware faults. It knows how to scale in that environment. We've taken a bunch of those technologies and moved them into xVM Server. There is a Solaris kernel inside, to be technical about it, inside DOM 0 of our hypervisor. But one of the things about xVM Server is you don't have to know anything about Solaris to operate it. So we've wrapped the whole thing in an appliance layer, in a web-based user interface. You in fact never interact with it as if it's Solaris. You just get the benefit of the Solaris technology.